Hey everybody, welcome back to another Sunday night live. I was supposed to come in with some music, been trying to figure out different things in regards to jumping on here, but you know how this technology is nowadays. It's slow responding. But anyway, thank you for joining me again for another Sunday night live. I appreciate you guys taking the time out your day to jump on here to have a discussion around real estate, what's happening in the real estate market, and things like that. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, tap that notification bell so you will know when to be alerted as far as when we do lives over here in this channel. YouTube is doing some strange things, so if you subscribe to the channel, please make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. They are unsubscribing people, so please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you have been subscribed, just go back over to the main channel. Just make sure that you're still subscribed. Hey, Dad, my dad is here. And so tonight we're going to just dive into what different people are kind of saying around the country in regards to trying to sell their home currently, whether it be trying to purchase a home currently. And so we'll dive into different videos from people throughout the United States of America. I feel like a lot of these particular home sellers or home buyers are generally located in the southern states. However, there were some that were in the northern states as well. We'll dive into a good realtor out of the Metro Atlanta area named Glenda Baker, see what she's kind of talking about based off of what Clark Howard is talking about as well. Have a discussion. You guys let me know what you're feeling, what your thoughts are in regards to this. And so we are going to kick it off right now and with this young lady who she's in the Metro Atlanta area. I think she's around this area. She tried to sell her home starting last year in 2024. But what happened is that when she was trying to sell her home, she realized that the house wasn't selling and everything around her was kind of popping up on the market. So we're going to dive into to her real quick, and we'll have a discussion. So if you guys are currently trying to sell your house, if you guys are in the market to try to sell your house, if you're noticing what's going on around you, chime into the comments. Let's have this live discussion. Again, this young lady was trying to sell her house just a few months ago in 2024. We're in 2025 now, so we'll kind of update with the flow of people in 2025 as well. But a lot of this shifting of the market as far as people trying to sell their houses started in that 2024, like 2023, 2024. Now we're in 2025, and it's still becoming a little hard for some people to sell their homes, especially if you are in the Sun Belt region. So here we go.
I just took my house off the market and I'm going to tell you why. Before I get into this, I want to make sure that I mention I am not an expert. I'm just talking about what I've seen in my neighborhood. Okay. I listed my house 23 days ago, and at the time, there were only two houses for sale. Both of them had been sitting on the market for a little over 30 days. As soon as I listed, four more houses for sale, including my neighbor. And since then, there's been two more. I don't like competition. So I took my house off, but that's not the only reason. I started going just a little bit outside of my neighborhood to see how long those houses were sitting. 75 days, 89 days. Your girl know how to take a hint. If houses are not selling and they're sitting, I'm not about to have the house on the market right now. It's just not a good time, obviously. So I started doing some research because I'm thinking I can't be the only person going through this. I ended up finding this article. Two states where home prices are falling because there are too many houses and not enough buyers. They are talking about Florida and Texas. Now, the experts say that we're not going to have a housing market crash, but it looked like it. So, anyway, I'm just going to wait until after the market cools down a little bit and then I'll try again. Like,
So this young lady, what's going on, Corey West? How you doing today? So this young lady, again, this live is about Americans currently cannot, a lot of them, particularly more in the Sun Belt region, cannot really sell their houses, or houses are sitting longer on the market. So people are kind of panicking in regards to selling their houses. They're delisting, as we talked about before on other lives. And so we're just going to go through a bunch of different videos based off of what I'm kind of seeing when I browse social media platforms. Let's have a conversation. Let you, if you guys see something similar happening in your area, don't be scared to kind of chime in the chat. So this young lady, like I said, I believe she's in this metro Atlanta, Georgia area that I'm in. A lot of this stuff that I'm seeing people kind of stuck at per se with their houses on the market are in the Sunbelt regions. It seems like more of the northern states are kind of selling a little bit better per se in regards to less days on market. But when you start hitting these southern states, Georgia, Texas, Florida, and if you go west a little bit, California and things like that, Arizona, houses are sitting longer. And so I feel like most people didn't understand in the sense of the houses, a true housing market, right? Everybody was buying houses in the sense of the pandemic. And the houses were flying off the market, right? People were throwing houses up for sale, and then there was 20 offers on the table, and the houses were gone in a day. People were passing, like waiving inspections, paying over appraisal gaps and doing different things like that. And now that the market is shifting in certain states, and these sellers are trying to sell their houses, they're like, wait, what's happening? My house is sitting on the market for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months. Typically, if you kind of go back into real estate history per se, houses back in the day when there was no Zillow and there was a paper book in which realtors went into the office and they had to wait for this magazines, particularly in Georgia, had to wait for a magazine to kind of come to the office that showcased all the properties that were available in the area. Or you as a person would drive around the area and see the sale signs in the yard, and you would go back to your house, get on your landline. You would try to call the realtor. You would try, and it might go to their landline. You might leave a message about interested in the house. So back in those times, houses did take a little longer to sell as well. And traditionally, houses in a normal market, in a more balanced market, houses do tend to sit about 2 months, 3 months. And nowadays, so many people got so used to things selling so quickly because of the pandemic. It's become very a microwavable society, almost like fast food. Everybody is so quickly wanting to get a return or validation so quickly in regards to what they're trying to either sell or do in life now. And so a lot of people don't have the patience to be able to wait. And so in her situation too, she realized that a lot of houses around her were kind of popping up in the area. So she was like, yeah, I think I'm going to delist my house, which we talked about before. And I think I'm going to go another route as far as waiting for the market to soften or cool to try to sell her house again. So let's get over to this couple. If you guys see anything happening in your area in regards to people pulling listings off the market, we all know that the housing market is still unaffordable. So let me know your thoughts, and we're going to head over to this couple in regards to their house, and they were trying to sell their house, and we'll hear a little bit about what they were saying in regards to selling it in 2025.
Guys.
Uh-oh.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry, y'all. Let me go real quick.
Hey, guys. It's April and Lance here. This is round 2 of taking this video because it's a pain in my ass. But anyways, we decided to come here because we swore that we would be upfront and honest and open about the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the things in between with this adventure. The truth is, we have listed the house. It has sat on the market for 2 months. We have gotten very little traction. We've gotten one offer, and we
got 4 offers, but we're not.
We got one real offer, and they ended up ghosting their realtor when it came time to put the earnest money down. And the other offers were from investors who lowballed us like $200,000. So anyways, it's just not a good time in our area to sell. I don't know what the market is where you guys are, but for us, it is horrible. And we are not going to just give our house away. So
we're in it.
We're in it. After we have sold everything that we own and gotten rid of everything, we have decided to move back in temporarily, maybe temporarily. We don't know what we're doing.
We don't know. We'll be here through the winter.
Yes.
For sure.
Maybe reevaluate in the spring. Maybe when interest rates come down, we'll have some better luck. We don't really know. But for now, we're back in the house, and rebuying some things.
And not rebuying some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we don't need all the things we had. So we found out.
So in their situation, again, wanting to sell the house quickly to be able to move on with their life. They said it's been on the market for 2 months. They decided to pull it off because they're not getting the traction that they wanted. They got an offer from a buyer, a possible buyer, and then in turn, the buyer goes to their realtor and decided that they no longer wanted to purchase the house. And then they got 3 other offers from investors who lowballed them. So this kind of goes hand in hand with a situation. I had 2 sellers recently, and they both got investors. So right now in this market, a lot of these homes that are being purchased that are on the market are being purchased by investors, whether they're corporate investors, whether they're mom and pop investors, whether they're iBuyers per se, you know, open door, offer pad, when sellers are going to these iBuyers to kind of purchase that way. And what's happening, similar to them, both of the properties I had listed for clients, they both received lowball offers. Well, actually 3 properties I had listed for clients, they all received lowball offers. One was listed at $569,000. They received a lowball offer of $382,000. The other one received a lowball. They were listed at $452,000. They received a lower offer of $400,000. Well, preferably they were trying to go all the way down to $350,000. And then the last one that I recently had was at $419,000, and they received an offer of $341,000, I believe. So I guess I want you guys as well, if you're listening to this, watching this, do you feel like the offers were really lowball, or do you feel like the offers were more in place of where they should be at according to real estate? Because we all know, and people keep screaming at the top of their lungs, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs about this as well, that real estate is unaffordable currently. If we don't do anything to kind of put it back in place or correct it, it will not be obtainable for future generations. Even for the current generation, it's not obtainable, but future generations, it won't be at all. So a lot of home sellers now are seeing quote unquote lowball offers, because once the property is sitting longer on the market, these investors are coming in saying, hey, we don't know what they're going through, right? We don't know their circumstances. They might be desperate enough to be able to possibly take said low offers. You know, the reason why the one listing I had couldn't take the low offer is because they have a mortgage to satisfy that was more than what the offer was. So you also have to make sure, if they're an investor, which I'm pretty sure these investors aren't really doing, is that you need to dig into the back files and see if these people might currently have a mortgage. Like as a realtor, I'm able to do that before I go meet any of the sellers in person. They probably don't know I do this, but I like to research everybody. Just like they research me, I research you. And I kind of mentioned this before my live, and I actually do go in the backhand and I do kind of see where your mortgage might, like what type of mortgage you took out. I don't know where exactly it's at the current moment, but I typically do math and say, like, okay, if you got a mortgage in 2021, you're trying to sell now in 2024. If it was $250,000, you know, you put about X, and typically that's after how much you put down your down payment. It'll show us like the loan that was taken out for the mortgage, and then I can kind of do like a guesstimation, and then I can go on another back end and I can see how much your monthly mortgage payments might possibly be outside of what the lender has on file in your portal. So I usually guesstimate all that information. Most realtors will do that before I even come to the table to meet you. And I don't lead with, hey, I know your mortgage is this, because again, I don't know exactly where your mortgage is at, but I know that you possibly have a mortgage. But I always ask the seller, do you have a mortgage? So some of these things that are being, some of these investors that are lowballing these sellers, they can't really move out the space. And that's why a lot of them are frustrated. And they're like, okay, I'm just going to take the house off the market because it might not satisfy my loan, you know? And again, you got to see, everybody has different situations, but what they're doing right now, a lot of these investors, because the market is turning in certain states, they're like, hey, let's just take a risk. Let's just kind of put it out there and let's see what happens. So let's hear what this one realtor has to say in regards to the housing market, and then we'll turn around and see another homeowner. Hey, what's going on, David? Nice to see you. Glad to join us tonight. Again, the live is just based off of what some home sellers are currently seeing right now in certain parts of the country. We know every part of the country is not like this. We know every area is not like this, right? Everything real estate is locality. So we got to be very mindful of what's happening. But these are different stories in which people are kind of putting out into the universe in regards to TikTok, social media, about their experiences, what's happening. So we're shifting between home sellers, and we're going to shift between some realtors, and we're going to shift into some maybe even two other ones around home buyers, and kind of talk about it for a little bit, for about like, a good time. And then we'll maybe later on in the live, we'll kind of talk about what's happening, because as I mentioned about investors, we have a lot of foreign investors buying now in the US again. So we got to get into that as well. But I appreciate everybody joining me. And if you, as far as being part of the chat, hopefully this is not scaring you out of home ownership. I'm scaring you away from it. Again, everybody's situation is different. But I do like to kind of see what's going on in the world, right? And we got to live in reality and see how can we take the right steps to benefit from whatever we decide to do in the future in regards to real estate.
I got bad news for you if you are wanting to sell your house. And no, it's not that the market's trash, because the market's not trash, at least not in our area. The bad news is all of the home maintenance and updates and stuff that you've been putting off for the last 5 to 10 years, you're going to have to do. So if you want to sell your house for top dollar and quickly, you are going to have to do all the things that you've been avoiding. And that's just how it is. We are in a more stagnant market. Buyers are picky. Buyers don't want to spend a bunch of money on a house and then come in and have to fix everything because you've been putting it at the bottom of your to-do list. This isn't COVID times. They're not buying everything just so they can buy something. It has to be in perfect condition or near close. And I'll tell you some little facts about this. I've recently had multiple houses that I've put on the market that are pristine, and they have received multiple offers. They have went over asking price. They have had inspections waived. All of those aggressive offers have came in because the house deserves it. If your house is not clean, cute, organized, updated, cared for, you're not getting offers. Buyers aren't stupid these days. They want what they want, just like you want if you're buying a house. So get off your butt, find the contractors. You have to get that house ready if you want to sell it.
So now we take a different approach, right? So David said that's true. So a different approach. This young lady, she is a realtor, as you guys can see, in regards to, she said that home sellers now have to be realistic. They have to make sure they're pricing correctly, but they also have to make sure that they're handling the home maintenance, right? So you have a lot of people that want to sell at top dollar as if we're in COVID times. And they're like, well, I'm gonna put my house on the market for $500,000. Meanwhile, they need about $200,000 worth of work. And they don't want to come down from the price because they feel like they deserve what they deserve it, because the market is telling them that, because their friend next door sold last year for this amount. And they're not really keeping up with the current market trends or seeing what's happening in the area. And they don't want to do the repairs. They don't want to, fix the roofs. They don't want to do anything to the house, really. They don't even want to clean the house. They get frustrated if they got to leave out the house for showings. They don't want to do the yard. They want to put the house up on the market and say, buy my house. My house is great. I don't need to do anything to my house because my house looks wonderful to me. And you're going to like it because it's my house. And it's like, that's not the case no more. We're not in that environment no more. We're not in these COVID times, and people and buyers are very picky. I've toured several houses with buyers. My colleagues have toured several houses with buyers, and buyers are being picky, whether it be from them saying like, well, I wanted more carpet in the house and it has more hardwood flooring, or I don't like the peach wall. I want white walls, or I don't like the 1-car garage. I want a 2-car garage, even though they can kind of see that prior to coming because it's in the listing. But they're being very picky. A lot of the listings that I had, people were even backing away from because the backyards, like they were like, that was the feedback we were getting in regards to the backyards. And I told the sellers, make sure your backyard the grass is cut, make sure it looks as nice as possible, because you don't have as much backyard space per se, and which somebody might gravitate towards. So we got to make it look nice enough where people feel they can go outside and be able to experience family time, barbecue time, gatherings per se, right? And so in one of the houses I had, the backyard was full of trees. And so a lot of what was happening is we would get people to come in and they would kind of mention they liked the house, but the backyard, it was the backyard, it was the kitchen. So the flooring in the kitchen had, it was a different type of vinyl plank hardwood in the kitchen. So the house itself was traditional hardwood throughout the dining room space, the foyer when you first walk into the house, into the living room space, and then the one room that was when you first came in, that living space per se, it was carpeted, but it was more like a den per se, office space, additional living type of space. And then you walk in, and then the kitchen, they had it, they upgraded it throughout the years because they bought the house in 1991. So they upgraded it in about 2007-ish. And the kitchen, but they had different flooring. They put in different cabinetry, had like cherry wood cabinets and all that stuff. So a lot of the feedback we were getting was like, oh, we don't like that the flooring is different in the kitchen than the dining room space and the living room space. Or they would head out in the backyard and they were like, oh, we don't like that there's a bunch of trees and there's not enough space for us to have like have our kids run and different things like that. So this is not the era of 2020, 2021. People are very particular when they're trying to buy. So if you don't want to do some of those things to kind of get people in that house, to make them see it as a great purchase, they're not going to buy. The realtor will send you a lot of feedback in regards to, they'll say, oh, the house showed well or whatever. And then they'll hit you with, but my buyers, and they'll say X, Y, and Z. So, what did David say? David said, what I am seeing now, a significant drop in the number of showings. Buyers are coming in a little lower. He said, buyers are coming in a little lower. Let me click off her. Sorry. Buyers are coming in a little lower than asking. Sellers have to readjust their expectations. Yes, buyers are coming in lower. Like I mentioned earlier, some of these buyers are investors, and they are lowballing. They see the houses sitting longer on the market, and they're throwing in lowball offers to see, let me test where these sellers are at. Let me see how desperate they are. Do they really need to sell? What type of sell is this? Is it a divorce? Is it downsizing? Is it relocation of a job? How quickly do they have to move? So some of these investors too are lowballing. And then again, some of these buyers are like, I don't see myself paying this high of a house, because you nowadays, well, in Georgia per se, I don't know if every state allows Zillow to do this, or Redfin, but you can kind of see what the home sold for back in the day. And so now the psychology of the home buyer has to be like, this person bought this house for $50,000. Even though it was 10 years ago, they see that and they're like, and now this house is priced at $600,000. How did, in their mind, like, how did it appreciate from $50,000 10 years ago to $600,000? And they're like, I don't want to pay that, So there's a lot of things that sellers need to do to readjust things. And I know people hate the thing of bringing down the prices because they feel like, why should I have to bring my prices down in order to satisfy somebody that obviously they feel like can't afford my home? Because the seller feels like, well, if you could afford my home, you wouldn't have no problem with the prices. And the buyer's like, well, I can afford your home, but I don't want to pay what you're trying to get out of it. So it's become like a butting of heads. And so now sellers are just like, well, I'm just going to take my property off the market. He said sellers that don't want to do what needs to be done are being punished in this type of market. Exactly. Sellers are being punished in this type of market. If you don't want to take care of any of the repairs, if you don't want to do anything up front, you're being punished. And even if you don't even take care of the repairs, if you're not even willing to offer possible concessions, even though I've been noticing lately too that some buyers don't they don't mind the concessions, but they prefer that some of the maintenance be done beforehand because they don't feel like having to go in and then get that maintenance done. But they're still willing to take the concessions as well. But you have some sellers that still don't want to even offer a nice amount of concessions to make sense. And I had that situation happen with a buyer I was working with where this buyer, she was interested in this townhouse, and the townhouse needed a lot of work. And I kept asking her, are you sure you want to purchase this townhouse? Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We saw, evidence of water damage, things in the house. And of course, my thing is that I would never want somebody to purchase a home I would not purchase myself. Of course, we all have different goals as far as purchasing a home or how we prefer to live. And sometimes I got to step back because I'm always trying to protect people. And sometimes I got to realize, like, Devon, this is not where you're living at, even though I want to make sure people are put in a good position so they're not just living in any space. Some people are like, well, this is suitable for me. So I have to step back, take my things out of it and say, okay, this is suitable for that person. But needless to say, she was okay with it. We went through the process. We did all the things we had to do. I got the contractors over there. Like, I went over for the contractors, for the plumbers, for everything. I always meet them at the house. And then I found a roofer to go over there to kind of look at the roof because we knew the roof was old. And the only thing we asked for was that the seller would actually give her a credit of about $7,000 to $8,000 to be able to replace the roof, because we knew, in regards to what insurance companies are doing currently, is that if your roof is over a certain amount of years old, even though you have a warranty on said roof with your shingles and everything with the roofing company per se, the thing is that the insurance companies are now not insuring roofs over a certain age life. So when she was looking for insurance companies, the big carriers were like, no, we can't insure you. And of course, you can go into your local carriers, and sometimes your lenders have insurance companies as well that they work with that can help you get insured, even if the roofs are longer in the age of the life of the roof per se. However, your costs will go up on a monthly basis. So her insurance for the year was $1,200 with a roof in good condition, less amount of age on it. But when she told him that it was 21 plus years, it was $2,200. So it was $1,000 extra. So all we were asking the seller to do was, hey, could you give her a credit towards the roof being replaced? That way she'll get the quote from the insurance company. And when in turn you close, she'll use said credit to replace that roof, get certificate of roof being replaced. Then she'll send it over to insurance company. The insurance company will just said home insurance, her home insurance policy to get her more in a better area because the roof was newer. And they were like, no. And so we basically, what you call the deal, terminated the deal. Sellers need to be ready to make repairs when buyers does a home inspection. Exactly, David. I agree. I'm sorry I'm late. No problem, MHOA. I was at the store. That's okay. Hopefully you got some good food from the store. Got some good old food. I was at the store earlier, so. He said, MHOA said, just got back from the Pacific Northwest last night. May have found my next move at living at Damon Omar. Okay, so what, are you thinking about going to Washington or something? Or I don't know if that's the area you're kind of going to. Let's see what MHOA say. I plan on finding a good seller's agent, a home inspector, to find my issues and go from there. Yeah, definitely you want to find a good agent, an agent that's not going to bull crap you. I know a lot of people feel like, and am I freezing? Okay. I know a lot of people might not like the harsh reality, but I feel like if an agent is coming to you and they're just telling you what you want to hear and not telling you the truth, then I wouldn't really lean that way. But again, I can't tell you what to do, but I wouldn't lean that way. I would want to get the reality of stuff, like put me in the real space of what things are looking like, right? Because ultimately, I want to be able to say, if anything goes this way, you told me that it could possibly go this way. And hopefully it don't go that way. It'll end up in another way, and it'll be greater than what you expected. But I just tell people, just make sure you get an agent that's not going to tell you, like, your home, from you just looking around the area and stuff going and selling the area that's comparable to your home. If you know your home is worth, $200,000, and the agent comes in and say, oh, your home is worth $350,000. You're like, okay, now where are we getting this extra 150,000? You know, so you want to make sure you get a good agent that's going to be truthful with you, honest with you, lay down the facts, show you what's happening in the market, and kind of go from there. And then if people are selling in this market, find a seller's agent that has a good plan in place. And even if the agent does have a good plan in place, we as agents, we can't work miracles, right? We can do all we can do to try to get your house sold. We can do open houses. We can market. Most well, I don't want to say most agents because I see some agents still in my MLS system taking pictures with cell phones. But you typically have the agents does typical things, the marketing package with, they'll offer the photos, they'll offer, digital tours per se, as far as online, when it comes to people being able to see your house digitally, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all that type of marketing now, that's all over, right? So you'll get those basics, of course. All right, let me see. So let me see. MHOA said, and it took a few days. I didn't like it when I first got there, but the place really mellows you out. Okay. So I guess you guys are talking about Washington and Northwest Washington. Okay. So let's kind of get into, let me see what MHOA say real quick. I'm thinking closer to Canadian borders. That's where I spent most of my time there. Seattle has really changed since my last time there 34 years ago. Okay. Wow. Okay. Canadian. Wow. Canada, I should say. Canada. Wow. I have never actually been to Canada. I've told myself that I want to go to Canada. I've never been to Canada. And undisclosed location. Okay. He said now, how would I find such a good agent? Well, you can reach out to either me, you can reach out to Jackie, you can reach out to David in Omaha, you can reach out to Jen, you can reach out to Christina. We're all, know different people around the country. So either, I guess, 5 of us, because I know you're on everybody's channel, you look at everybody's different YouTube. So definitely, you can reach out to any of us and we can try to assist you the best we can. So, but definitely you gotta make sure you get a good agent, just to help you out. You just want to make sure you are set on the right road of putting your house on the market and understanding what truly is going on in the market. All right, so now we're going to jump into this other young lady. She's a mom, and she's trying to sell as well. And then we're going to head over to Miss Glenda Baker, and then we'll hit this lady right here trying to sell in this market as a seller, and then we'll hit on one more person, then we'll talk to Glenda Baker. Check out Glenda Baker. Let's see if this is going to play.
My husband and I are in the middle of trying to sell our house, but this market right now is absolutely horrible. Our house has been on the market since like the middle of March, and it's about to be June tomorrow, and still hasn't sold. We've had to drop the price, I think 3 times. Yeah, 3 or 4 times at this point. And we're just noticing a lot of houses in our area are doing the same thing. They're just sitting on the market and just having to continually drop the price. And they're great homes and they were priced fine. But I don't know, just with everything that's going on in the market, I think people are afraid to buy. Obviously, interest rates are really high. It's just been a lot. We've had so many open houses. And what's really hard is like today I'm solo parenting. So I have 2 under 2 plus our dog. So, and it's like almost 100 degrees outside and I have to be out of the house for 3 hours. So not a lot of things I can do. I've literally been sitting in my car in the AC while both the kids nap. They're both awake right now. So as you can hear, I have to feed my baby and then we're going to go inside Barnes & Noble and I'm going to have my toddler pick out a book.
All right. So what did MHOA say? I got hooked on these channels during the pandemic. Well, we are glad, all of us are glad that you came over and started, tuning in, watching the channels, getting as much information needed for you in the future or anybody around you that might need information in regards to real estate. And then, when you're out and you're talking, whether it be family, friends, colleagues, and they say anything about real estate, you're like, you know what? You can start giving them some good advice as well. So we appreciate you coming over and getting hooked to the channels during the pandemic. David said, I've been in Canada once to go fishing. Beautiful country. I have never been to Canada. I would love to go. MHOA said, I picked up a carton of smokes for $32 at the deep free shop. $32. Wow. I don't smoke cigarettes, so I'm thinking that's what you're saying, carton of smokes. And I'm like, $32 is crazy. Wow. That I'm glad I'm not a cigarette smoker, because I don't know if I could pay $32. I'm so frugal. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that at all. David said, Clark, this is a great idea for a stream. I like these video reactions. Great idea. Yeah, I'm like, I've seen a lot of people kind of doing these reaction videos, and I was like, you know what? Let me kind of talk about it, because again, as we all know, David and even MHOA and Corey West, I feel like, and my dad, everybody's becoming like semi-experts in the housing market. So when you see some of these videos, you're secretly on the other side talking into the camera, like on TikTok or on your phone, like, what is going on? Like, why would you do those? Why would you do this? So I was like, let me just come on here live and see if everybody, what your reactions are to what these people are kind of talking about in regards to what's happening in the economy or where they're at. And when it comes to selling the house. So with her situation, like, again, she was stating how the house, she's trying to sell her house. Her house has been on market for a couple days. Again, she is a seller too, as well, that has kids. So this is another thing I want to tell sellers, because I've experienced this too as well, working with a buyer. If you are a seller and you have animals in your house, I would say the best thing to do, and I know everybody can't do this, is to take your animal out. Like if you have a dog or a cat, if you can, please take the animal out the house. Because I walked into the house with a buyer of mine's last year, and the person had a dog, and so they asked the realtor to do is allow it, basically put a sign on the door that said, please do not open the garage. A dog is in the garage, and they didn't allow us in the garage. So I had told the realtor, I was like, I talked to my buyer, like, is it okay without seeing the garage? Because typically you want to see everything in the house before you kind of put an offer in. But I said, but we do know that the home inspector will come back through and they'll inspect everything. But we kind of want to see what we can see, generally the full layout of the house and the scope of the house in the beginning, outside of what the home inspector will come back and put their little opinions or things on in regards to what could possibly need maintenance, replace, repair. And so I had basically said that I think it's wise that if you have an animal, just if you can, take your animal with you, just so we can actually go through all the spaces and we're not locked out in these different rooms. And I know a lot of sellers don't do that. Or if you have an animal, if you don't mind putting it in the backyard for the time being, I don't know. I'm like, can you take your animal somewhere? And I'm like, I love animals too, but I'm like, you're trying to sell a house and you want to be able to let that buyer access every room as possible. So that's just my opinion. Everybody else is different, but I prefer you to kind of take your animal. He said, David said, we are glad you like the content. Yes, we are glad that MHOA, Corey West, and everybody that kind of tunes in, glad that you guys enjoy coming over to the space, having conversation with us, watching the content, sharing the content if possible. We totally appreciate it as well. Croy said, yes, I found Clark by accident. Well, I'm glad you found me by accident. I appreciate you finding me. And MHOA said, I'll be a seller's dream and a buyer's nightmare. You'll be a seller's dream and a buyer's nightmare. That's too funny. So you'll be over there telling the buyer like, nope. All right, so now let's get into this young lady as well. She bought a house. She is a trades. She bought a house. She bought a house and she is selling her house. She's a young lady. I believe she's an electrician in the trades, and she is selling her house. Let's listen to her.
House. And I'm getting ready to move back with my parents yet again. I am single. I do have a 9-to-5 job where it does not pay me nearly enough to cover the bills. And I've had this house for about 3 years now, and I am just exhausted. I am drowning, barely surviving, not being able to make repairs because the house is now falling apart, and I have no money in my savings to fix it. I have been saving for the past 3 years. All I've been doing is working and going straight home. I don't go out. I don't spend money on like coffee or anything. I try to save as much money as possible so I could get some money to make repairs for this house to make it nice and comfortable and livable. But I am at my wit's end now, and I'm just tired. I honestly want to leave my job, my 9 to 5 job that's not paying me well enough to even cover the bills. I'm exhausted. I want to leave, but then I'm stuck with this house, and like I just don't want any of it anymore. So I'm selling it. I don't know what my plans are going to be after I sell my house and maybe leave this 9 to 5 job that I'm at. But we're just going to figure it out. So I'm going to sell my house and go back to living with my parents, unfortunately.
So, and this young lady's situation seems like she did everything right, right? She bought a house. She is a single woman. And she's just exhausted, right? Because I think sometimes some people don't realize, and maybe she did, maybe her realtor told her this, maybe her parents, her friends told her this, that having a house also requires home maintenance. If a furnace breaks, you have to fix it. If a water heater breaks, you have to fix it. And nowadays, everything is so expensive to do, right? And as she stated, she has repairs. A lot of things are breaking in the house, and she can't afford to repair such items. And she's exhausted working a typical job in America, and the income is not rising. So I feel like, and I don't know, of course, these people personally, but I feel like maybe she would feel more secure if she had a higher paying job. Because as she mentioned too, she's ready to quit her job. She doesn't want to work her job no more. And she wants to kind of move on to explore other options in the future. So as this particular young lady who will be selling, she's not selling yet, and I don't know where she lives at. It seems like she did everything right, right? Good on paper, did everything right. However, she's just exhausted. So we're in the sense of now in this economy in America per se, where people are exhausted. People are saying, how can I afford to keep going in a system in which something's always happening or occurring, and I can't afford to get out of it. I can't afford to save anything for bills. My job is not raising the cost as far as how much I get paid. And that's the problem that I'm having right now with the housing market, and particularly more in this Metro Atlanta, Georgia market, because I don't know the salaries around the country. But what I'm seeing a lot in Georgia, and this is what I've been screaming for the last 3 years, and I know people don't like me as far as the realtors down here probably don't like me in the sense of me screaming this, but I'm like, I don't see how the home price can stay elevated or keep climbing when the income in America is not climbing as such. So when home prices, when I go and I look at, okay, home prices has elevated down here in this market, maybe 50, 60, 70, 100%, 200%. I've seen some when I look on Zillow, it's like 249% more as far as the home price, but yet your job is not elevating at that much in percentage. So even if people want to buy a house right now on the buyer side of the end of it, even though we are talking about sellers, but even on the buyer side of wanting to purchase a home, it's like my job doesn't even afford me enough to be able to feel comfortable to pay a monthly mortgage currently. So it's like, how do we get them to raise the income in America that can go tandem with the housing, since the housing is elevated in prices? And now we have a lot of sellers who feel like, I don't want to lower my price because, again, everybody's situation is different. If somebody bought a home, say in 2023, there might not be as much equity there no more. And there might not be enough equity there currently for them to sell. However, they need to get out of their house because, one, maybe they lost their job. They can't afford to pay the monthly mortgage no more. They're exhausted like she was. And so there has to be some type of give and take, some type of balance, somewhere where it becomes a thing of incomes rising more, home prices either stand where they're at, softening a little bit. Because, of course, you have home sellers that feel like, I don't want to lose my equity. That's what they're saying. I'm not just going to give my house away. And sometimes it's like, well, you're not giving your house away because you don't have the equity is in your house. It's not liquidity, right? So you don't actually physically have that money in your hand. Yes, it's great to have equity in a house. So then when you go to sell the house, because of the elevated prices in America now, you can possibly go put a nice down payment on another house or possibly buy another house cash if you don't have a mortgage. And after you pay all the fees, the taxes, the transfer fees, all these other fees, even though they always mention just the realtor fees, but if you go to a closing table, there's other fees, and they want to throw everything on the realtor. But I'm like, we're not the only one taking the fees. I always tell people when they look at their settlement statements, I'm like, look at some of the fees. If you have a mortgage, a payoff on your with your balance, it might be more than what the realtors paid. Like I had one client that was mad, and she made it seem like the realtor took all her money, but in reality, you owed a $200,000 mortgage. So it's a bunch of nuances all around. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but I don't want to get all crazy over here. What's going on, Lang? Good evening. Good evening. She said higher paying employment helps too. Yes, we need to have higher employment. There has to be a shift. There has to be a shift. I don't want to sound like an angry realtor or angry person in general, because and outside of everything I do, I'm a person. And a realtor is a profession real estate is a profession that I'm in, but I don't want to sound like an angry person. Corey West said, if you live in a college town, you could turn the house into a dorm house, rent the house out to all guys or girls, and have them split the rent. Yes, there's so many different ways in which you can, utilize your real estate. Sometimes, but some people might not want to be a landlord. Like I've seen some people say, I don't want to be a landlord. I just want to completely give the house, let somebody buy the house, walk away from it completely. I don't want no ties to the house. I don't want an attachment to the house. And if they should break anything, or if they should randomly move out, and I can't satisfy my monthly mortgage, some people don't want that. I had one seller who I had said their house was completely paid off, and I had said to them, I said, well, why don't you just keep it as an investment property and rent it out? And he was like, I don't want to be no landlord. I want to get rid of this house. I don't want to be a landlord. So they sold their house. I helped them sell their house, but some people don't want to be but then you do have people that don't mind being landlords. So this is a good option for them as well, Corey, where they can definitely put it in a college town somewhere, definitely rent the rooms out, dorm style type of renting the rooms out. It's a website called Pad Split. They do that a lot in Atlanta, where you can rent per room. I'm pretty sure different states and different areas have different websites or different mechanisms in which they kind of rent out per room. Back in the day, you used to be able to get on like Craigslist, that you would find stuff there. I don't know if that site still exists or not. And then, of course, if you drive around, just like I drive down here in the Metro Atlanta area, you'll see for rent signs in the yard. So definitely that is an option, and that kind of what you stated as well, Corey. That is definitely an option for people who are currently trying to sell their house, and maybe they moved out already. I always tell people it's not a good idea. If you still have a mortgage on your house, it's not a good idea to move out your house. I prefer as a seller, and I know you might feel like, it's an inconvenience to always have to leave out the house, go somewhere if a showing is requested. But again, you have your duties, the realtor has their duties. And I think sometimes sellers have become very, I don't want to say privileged, but have become very, I don't know what I'm trying to say in regards to that, but they're sitting on this kind of soapbox or a platform per se, where they feel like this is my house and I don't want to clean up, I don't want to leave it, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, then you the one that wanted to sell it. You came to a real estate professional, or maybe you did it for sale by owner by yourself, however you decide to go about it, or maybe you sold it to an iBuyer, however, again. But if you come to a realtor, when I sit down with the agreement, the contract, I read it out to everybody. Most of the clients kind of tune me out because it does take about an hour and a half to 2 hours to kind of get fully through these contracts so you understand. But it says within the contract that you as a seller has a duty to me as a realtor, and myself as a realtor has a duty to you as a seller. And I don't think, because a lot of people nowadays just kind of sign on a dotted line real quickly, like you go through the simple things with them, like, okay, they want to know how much you're going to take from me commission-wise. They want to know what other possible expenses might kind of fall into the sale or the buy of the house. And then other than that, they kind of just don't read anything, they just sign. So I'm like, and even with me sitting there reading it to them, like I said, every time when I'm reading the paperwork to people, I can tell that they blink out and they kind of go. So I'm like, I'll stop and I'll say, do you have any questions? Does this make sense? It's a lot to kind of read through, and they'll say, oh no, I'm listening. But you can always tell as a person when people are listening or they kind of space out. And typically a lot of people space out on me because I talk a lot. But yeah, so I can tell very well that you kind of went into La La Land. MHOA says, should have wrote, I'll be a seller's agent's dream. Okay, and a buyer's agent's nightmare. Okay. If I ever rent this dump out, I'll have a property manager. Yeah, there's also the option to get a property manager to kind of help you with the renting. It also separates you from your tenants having direct contact with you as the owner of the property. So to kind of make that barrier where they're not always calling you for everything that happens in the house. Of course, you should always kind of stay hand in hand with your property manager and make sure they are giving you proper updates and they're not just always coming to you when something's going wrong, just to make sure they are effectively managing your property correctly because you are paying them a fee to manage it. What I noticed down here in the Metro Atlanta area, we have bigger property management companies, right? And a lot of them, and maybe it's because they're managing hundreds of thousands of properties, even though I don't see an excuse for this because you have employers and you have a team, but a lot of the properties in which they're managing, they're going unmanaged. They don't go around the neighborhoods. They don't come and try to make sure the property's upkept. When I was helping in the beginning, when I moved down here and I was helping a few renters rent properties, I don't do rentals no more. However, I can, shift you to people in my brokerage that do rentals. But if you need that help or that assistance. So I don't want to say you can't come to me and ask me how to get connected. You definitely can, but I personally don't do them no more. But when I was doing them, those property management companies were I would show up and there would be squatters in them. There would be windows broken. Like I've showed up to a couple, the windows were busted open. You go inside the house, it's cobwebs, it's spider webs, is insects in the houses. And so I know because of that, you're not properly managing the property. So that's the only thing I want to say with property management. I kind of got on a tangent with that, but definitely if you make sure it's a good property manager, make sure you check in with them to make sure they are doing what they're supposed to do in order to get their money, besides just collecting the rent. $1,300 a month gets you 240 square feet in Seattle. No AC. Oh yeah, absolutely not. I will not be moving to Seattle no time soon because all I'm going to be doing is walking from one wall to another wall and nowhere else in the house for $1,300. And then no AC. I got to have a unit and I'm not having central air. Absolutely not. We have passed those days of the 50s and maybe 60s. I don't know. Past those days where I can't have inside ventilation through central air. MHOH said, it's my house. If I want to sit in my underwear watching reruns of Ren and Stimpy, so be it. Exactly. If you want to watch Ren and Stimpy in your underwear, so be it. So be it. Corey's laughing. Lang said, my goal is to invest in real estate and purchase homes for families or nonprofit organizations. And I'm planning to have a property manager to assist. Yes, that's definitely that's a good goal. And definitely you want to have a good property manager to assist you in that. Wow, squatters, I was thinking like 21st Century or Remax, or for property management, I do have to do the research. Yeah, I don't know if 21st Century or Remax have property management. But definitely you can research. There are sometimes agents who also do property management. So maybe through their companies, they might service said property management companies, because we have a couple of agents down here that are my brokerage that have their own property management companies. So it just depends. You just have to search around, do your research, and see what they offer. All right, let's get into Glenda Baker. And then we probably won't even touch on the foreign investors tonight. We'll probably touch on them another night because we're almost at this hour time. And I feel like, all right, so let's first talk about, she had a Instagram that she was asking about people questions in regards to what to do to help get her listing sold. So at this point in time, I don't know how many she has now. I have to check the system or MLS. She had 21 listings on the market, and she wanted to ask questions to other realtors in different areas, different states that follow her on social media. What are you doing to help get the listing sold? What the MH08 said, I was going to rent from a property management company many years ago. They came by my house to see how you live. I passed. Oh, wow. So they came by, they wanted to see to make sure you didn't, I guess they want to see how you live. So they like, if you live like this, then you probably would live like this if you rented this property out. So they want to see, are you a dirty person? Are you a clean person? How do you upkeep the yard outside? How do you do things? Okay, so that's a very involved property manager. So that might be somebody good to look into if they still exist in your area, MHOA, in regards to when you decide in the future, if you decide to rent your house out, because if they're doing that, that's telling you that they're in the field, they're and they are doing work to vet people in a sense of how do they upkeep properties. Okay, let's click on Glenda Baker. She is a realtor, one of the top, a top selling realtor in the Atlanta metropolitan area where I'm located at. She is among many top realtors down here. I feel like everybody named Mama is a top realtor down here in the metro Atlanta area, but I guess you got to believe it in yourself that you're a top realtor. So I respect it. But she is a wonderful realtor, great realtor in the metro Atlanta area. And she is one of the top realtors down here. Check her out.
So I'm just telling you right now that if you think that price solves everything, I think that you're wrong. But what I really want to know is, what are you doing to generate traffic for the listings that you have if you're a real estate agent? And if you're a seller, what is your expectation that I'm going to do to generate magically? And this is the thing. This is what I want you to listen to. Listen, please listen to me. If there was something that I could do to generate traffic for my listings, I would do it, because I need to sell them. Like, if I thought dancing down the street naked would get something sold, y'all, I would be dancing down the street naked. If I thought putting a picture of my feet in the listing video, or the listing pictures would sell it, I would do that. If I thought that going across the street over here to the Cobb County Courthouse and telling every person in the Cobb County Courthouse that I have 123 Banana Street listed, that would get it sold, I would do that. I will do whatever it takes to get my listing sold. But I got to tell you, it's a little bit difficult out here. So I want to know from you, if you're the seller, how do you think that we can generate traffic for your listing? And if you are a real estate agent, how are you generating traffic for your listings? Please DM me, text me, call me, tell me what you're doing to get traffic to your listings. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put the stuff on my eyebrows today.
So that is Glenda Baker. We'll watch one more video from her before we get off of here. MH08 said they do, and I would. Okay. I was even a friend of one of their property managers. Okay, so that's good. So you have a familiarity with the person, a friendship with them. You can trust them in a sense. So that's always good. I always tell people, if you know somebody that you can feel like you can trust, that'll do a good job, that'll work hand in hand with you, and they'll always assist you and tell you the real, that's somebody you should go with outside of any other options or referrals that somebody else should recommend you, because you already have that established relationship. MHOA say, dancing down the street naked sounds like my neighborhood. Wouldn't buy. Oh no, I hope that don't sound like a neighborhood. But yeah, so like she is, like I said, one of the top realtors down here in the Metro Atlanta area. And as a top realtor down here in the Metro Atlanta area, she is also, just like we all are, experiencing difficulty when it comes to selling properties because of the way the market is shifting, right? So it doesn't, as sometimes sellers will be like, oh, I want to go with another realtor because I don't feel like my realtor is doing a good job of getting my house sold. Sometimes it doesn't matter in regards to the realtor. Yes, maybe you might have a realtor that's not doing all they can do. But then you might have one that is, but it's just not selling because your house is only worth what the buyer is willing to pay for it. And what we're going through right now is a time of uncertainty. Again, a readjusting, a shifting, a correction, and we're getting out of this microwavable type of real estate environment where people are coming in and they're coming into McDonald's and saying, I want to buy a house, and they're leaving out, and you have a whole line of people waiting in line to keep buying houses. We're not in that right now no more. We're shifting, we're adjusting, we're correcting, and we're balancing. We're trying to balance out so that affordability hopefully will be obtainable in the future for other generations and people that currently want to buy. So because of that, sometimes as a seller, when you have a realtor, it's not always the realtor's fault in regards to not why your house is not selling. It just is not selling because maybe the location it's in. Maybe it's possibly overpriced. In Glenda's situation, she doesn't believe that the houses are overpriced, and she doesn't believe that prices have anything to do with it. I could beg to differ depending on where the house is located. It could, because sometimes people want unrealistic prices for something that they do minimum work on. But again, everybody's opinions differ. But yeah, so it's adjusting. Great clip. Yeah. Glenda is a wonderful realtor, and I'm gonna hit you guys with the last clip from Glenda. We'll have a conversation. So this is with Glenda featuring Clark Howard. So Clark Howard is down here in the Metro Atlanta area. He is a radio personality. He also does a lot with Habitat for Humanity as far as helping them build homes. If you guys are home buyers and you feel like it's hard to kind of get in the space of home ownership, you can definitely explore Habitat for Humanity. They do have income limits, eligibility type of guidelines, but definitely you can explore them as an option if they're located in your area. Reach out to them as Habitat for Humanity, first time home buyer program. If you want to get into the home buyer space in a more income affordable way, I guess I could say. I don't know. And then also, of course, you can kind of check out NACA as well. It's so many different programs depending on which route you want to go for home ownership. NACA can tend to take longer in the process. Habitat for Humanity can take long too because they have sweat equity hours you got to put in and classes you got to take similar to NACA. So, but let's check out Miss Glenda Baker, and then we'll go see what she's saying. So this is her and Clark Howard. They're talking about home prices. If you want to, you can follow her on TikTok or Instagram as well.
We move into next year is you have what's known as price capitulation.
Clark Howard is 100% spot on. Price capitulation is coming, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a transitioning market right now. Seller has not embraced that the market has gone down, and the buyer is not willing to pay what sellers are expecting for their house. It's just that simple. Now, it's 2025. This isn't going to last forever. Nothing ever does. Great markets and bad markets. Nothing lasts forever. So right now we're in this transitioning market. Next year, I truly believe that sellers will face the reality of pricing. It's going to be late, unfortunately, for a lot of sellers because they'll continue to chase the market for the next 6 months. And then when we get to 2026, what they could have sold their house for in July of 2025, in the summer of 2025, that number will no longer exist. I'm just telling you right now. That number will no longer exist. If you have your house on the market right now, you need to understand where the market is and where the market's going, because I'm telling you right now, if you wait till 2026 to get realistic about the price, you're going to have lost a lot of buyers and you're going to have lost a lot of value. You can write it down that Glenda Baker said that today.
As we move into next.
So I somewhat agree with, I should say I agree with Glenda in regards to sellers coming to a reality as far as where their price is at if their home is currently on the market. Hey, John, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. John E. said, doing a second lowering of my asking price Friday, coming up on 6 months, feeling trapped for sure. So definitely don't feel too trapped. Again, as we stated earlier, the market is shifting. Just make sure if you are currently using a realtor, just say, hey, could you update me of what's happening? And I'm pretty sure he or she is probably already doing this, but see if they can update you of like what's happening and whether you're in a subdivision, your neighborhood, go a little bit outside of your neighborhood. As we all know, appraisers start within the neighborhood. So you want to kind of see what your neighborhood is doing, any houses that are similar to your houses, whether it be bedrooms, square footage, bathrooms, different things like that, and kind of see what is moving. I don't know if anything has recently sold in your area, but maybe just see like what was the recent house that sold, see how they kind of adjusted. And again, it can vary too, because a person might like a certain home in your neighborhood and you might feel like it's similar to your home, and they might give them exactly what they wanted for their house, and you feel like yours is not moving. I've seen that happen as well. So it does require patience. It does require us understanding that it is going to take a little time to sell. We're not in the fast market no more as the pandemic. So don't feel too trapped. Hopefully you are in a space where you have enough breathing room where you can still afford to pay your mortgage and you're not having to get out quickly, where you can be able to kind of float through that until somebody finally buys your home. But it's great that you're lowering the cost of your house. I know, again, most people don't believe that it's the price. However, sometimes I look at it like this, right? Because if you price it too high above the current market, where the market is at, then you'll ultimately have to shift right down. And then when you're shifting down, if you had, say, 2 other houses in your neighborhood that were already priced right, they're in turn shifting down now. So now you're chasing them because they're on the way down, and you want to be kind of comparable to what they are. So if you start all on the market at one time, or if anybody's around you, and sometimes it could be hard if you're the only house that has been listed on the market in your area, so you don't know where that kind of price point lies. However, if you feel like it's suitable for what the market is kind of stating in your area from the last 3-month sales, right now, honestly, the way the market is moving, I would say if you can find something in the last 2 months, because this market is moving weirdly. But within the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months in total, as far as what an appraiser kind of goes out with, and kind of just see how things are moving. But I would definitely say, if you haven't already, I'm pretty sure you might have already, but talk to your realtor, see what's happening in your area, see if there's anything that's sold, see what, and even if you want to, maybe, when you're in spaces or areas, talk to different people in regards to, like, say, like, what's making you stop, what's making you fearful of buying? Why would you want to buy? And that, ask questions. That's how, as realtors, we kind of get information around what people are screaming and yelling for, right? And that's how I knew, and just like David of Omaha and other people that kind of join these lives and these spaces to have this conversation about a year ago or a year and a half ago, we knew that a lot of buyers were screaming affordability. So even though people have been also stating, as far as the way the media is putting it, interest rates, wanting interest rates to drop, I still feel like, and David might be different with this because I know everybody have a different opinion, but I feel like interest rates, even if they do soften a little bit, I feel like we're still going to need a shift of home prices softening as well a little bit, in order to give people the comfortability of wanting to purchase a house, because there's so much fear mongering in regards to what's happening now in the media. And it's not just that, it's the reality, right? Property taxes are going up, home insurance is going up. There's so many disasters happening around the United States of America, forcing this home insurance up. There's so many people pulling back. We have this uncertainty now. We have people losing job stability. We have, these tariffs kind of being in, taking off, being in. So people are just fearful to kind of make any big financial moves right now. So typically what's happening, the people that I'm seeing in the market now are these investors, are foreign investors, are iBuyers, are second-time home buyers that might be able to sell their house and they have no mortgage, so they have a big chunk of cash to put down. So don't give up. Don't it's going to take some time. Adjust accordingly to how what you're seeing in your market, and just make sure you're available to have the house open for showings. Make sure it looks nice, pristine for people that's coming in, that's looking at your house. So, and just giving them a sense of, you want this house, right? So don't give up. Don't give up. Thank you, sir. No problem. MHOA said, Habitat built some houses in my neighborhood. Credit for homes that blend into the neighborhood. I sub to Clark Howard's channel. Yes, Clark Howard. I like Clark Howard. You know, of course, as a person, and we all have this in life, right? We don't agree with everything somebody says, but it's always great to have conversation. Well, I'm not having conversation with him. I'm having conversation to the screen. But as far as like indulge in other people's conversation, and you say some things you agree with, some things you don't. But Clark Howard is definitely a good person to listen to, has great conversation, and then he brings up some great points of how things are shifting and what's happening in the economy, whether it be from housing to electric cars to so many different things. So definitely a good person to kind of listen to and see what he's saying. And MHOA said, but if I take the loss of value and divide by 12, where does that leave me? You talking about the loss of value in regards to like the house, your house? And where does it leave you? So I always tell people, you definitely want to make sure, I don't know if this is what you're kind of asking, you definitely want to make sure, right, when you sit down at the table, you and your realtor, or even outside of just your realtor, most people, when you're looking to sell your house, you're sitting down with, this is how much I need to at least get out of it in order for me to be able to move on to the next situation, right? And then when you come in, when the realtor comes to the table, they'll break it down from their point of view as far as what they're seeing in the market, how things are trending. If they're working with buyers, they kind of know what buyers are looking for. And maybe those buyers might not be looking per se into your house, but they might be out working with buyers looking in other areas. Like that was the case with me, right? I had a listing on the market in Mableton, but I had buyers looking in Conyers, Lithonia, McDonough, Stockbridge, and those type of areas. So south of Atlanta or east of Atlanta, they weren't looking west of Atlanta, which is where Mableton is at. So I was getting on-site, feedback from buyers when we went to different houses to see what wasn't working. And so then I would come back and tell the seller, like, hey, because I am actively in the market working with somebody that's looking to buy, I know that these are what people are saying. And so having all that, sitting down and actually having those numbers in front of you. So what a realtor should do is once I always tell sellers and buyers, everyone should do their own homework. And then when the realtor comes to the table, the realtor will do their homework. When they're coming to help you sell, they'll do their homework. And then together you guys look and see, each other, I guess you can say, look off of each other's papers per se, right? And you can kind of compare things that you have taken or that you're seeing, and they can tell you vice versa as well. And then you can say like, hey, this is how much I need. I did the math as far as what I might know in regards to how much I need in my pocket to either move on. A lot of people are selling their houses now and they're just renting. So some people are just like, okay, I just need enough to get out of this space, to get out of this house. And I'm just going to go rent for a while and see what happens, right? But some people that are buying another home, they're like, I need a certain amount to kind of take the ship to another home. So you just got to sit down, you got to do the numbers, you got to see what makes sense, because maybe it might not make sense for you to sell your house in this market, But if you have to shift, you need to get out of it. And you might say, hey, I need at least $60,000, but I'm okay if I get $58,000, $57,000, $3,000 left, $2,000 left, $5,000 less, just to kind of get out of it. So I always tell people, keep your options open, but definitely know your numbers, understand where you need to be at, understand how much it costs to, what the fees might be realtor-wise if you use a realtor. Again, you can do for sale by owner if you want to. You don't have to use a realtor. Commissions are definitely negotiable. However, I always tell people, if you're going to negotiate the commission, you have to make sure you understand what the agent's going to do for you. Because if you say you only want to give the agent 1%, the agent might only give you 1% of their time, and they might just put the house on the MLS. Because I've seen it happen a lot down here in the Metro Atlanta area, where I talk to the agents and I'm like, okay, they're like, well, the seller only gave me 1%, so I did 1% worth of work. I put the house on MLS, and I'm not doing nothing else. Is that fair to do? No, but I also understand on the other end, they feel like, I want to fully service you, but you don't want to fully give you the pay to do so. And if you worked at a regular job, you would come in, you would ask your job to pay you how much, a full-timer work would be, not half of what a full-timer work would be. So you just have to have those conversations, but definitely understand those fees, understand any type of, if you do transfer fees, any type of legal fees, depending on what state you're in, you might use a title company to close down here in Georgia. We use closing attorneys, understanding any HOA fees down here in Georgia. Some HOAs require you to have a closeout letter, and the seller is required to pay it. Not every HOA does that, but a lot of them down here in Metro Atlanta area, they be getting that money. They be taking people's money. They require a closeout fee, and then any other fees that you might have. So do the best that you can to kind of like your taxes. If you haven't paid your taxes, you might have to put that in there as well, and kind of see where those fees might land you at. So that's what I say. I don't know if that makes sense, MHOA, but kind of know those fees prior to understand how much you might need to see where it could leave you at the end when you try to go on to either, if you decide that you don't want to own no more, you just want to rent, or if you want to go purchase something else. And it says, I penciled that math so many times, I don't do it anymore. Okay. You said I'm done doing the math. I don't want to do the math no more. But I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I know we went over an hour. I was trying to stick to an hour, but great conversation. I appreciate MHOA joining us tonight. John E., thank you for coming through. I appreciate you. Lang, thanks for being here. David, thank you as well for always coming to the channel. Corey West, I appreciate you as well. I appreciate everybody coming in, having great conversation, and then my dad as well. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Sunday if possible, for another live, another good conversation. Let me know what's going on in the market in your area. And if you are watching this video on the playback, put below where you're watching us from, any suggestions about what we should talk about next live, and then also hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And great show, great show tonight. Thank you, David. Thanks for coming in. Thank you, Lang, as well. Thank you, Croy. All right, you guys, take care. Have a wonderful Sunday night and a great week.